All right, we won't be going through a whole lot today. We had maybe just a short pop quiz in here. It was I start a statement and then they finish it. And the statement would be, we don't just walk in here and do nothing. I mean, you might do that in other classes, but we don't do that in here. And then for you two gentlemen, if you find an E down there, bring it back, because I misspelled a word here. That's where my missing E went. You'll have to ask your classmates. I misspelled a word because I was missing an E. So it must have... It wasn't even a hard word. I put S-U-P-U-R. So I was missing an E. So if you find one, bring it back. It's not a hard word, I know. I understand. So why can we spell sternocleidomastoid right, but we can't spell supper right? Did I say supper? I did, didn't I? Oh, I meant to say super. Oh, man, it's... see what happens when you guys are gone? No more all-day track meets. Okay, so, and you don't, it's not that you have to have your book out, and you don't, because we'll just briefly go through what we see here. And what we mean by that is these first four written in black are what category of acids? Right. Why? You see, that I like asking questions that way because, oh, yes, I got it right, but okay. But why did you get it right?
Because it doesn't have a double bond.
It does not. That one does. Okay, so we'll come back to that. These are what type of acids then? One in blue. Okay, and that's being really specific. When you say monounsaturated, was probably more correct. Or I got that wrong. You see, you got my mind wrapped around that darn supper instead of super. Okay, because you correctly said monounsaturated, didn't you? Okay, and that's what these would be. We can just say saturated. We can just say unsaturated acids. Good thing it's the end of the week. No. These two are unsaturated. Then these ones written in brown, they're unsaturated, but they're polyunsaturated. And this is why. Because this is saying that you've got 3 of these double bonds. That's why it's polyunsaturated. Okay, and that's why this only has 1 of those in there. So if we were to cover this 3 up, take the parentheses out, then we could say that is unsaturated, or like you correctly said, monounsaturated. And then, of course, these top ones are saturated then. What is the best things that you can do? Because I think if we just keep reinforcing this, it's going to continually make more and more sense. What is the best thing you can do to help yourself out with these 4 saturated acids? Okay, so since they're in alphabetical order, we start with which number? Then they just go up by increments of 2. Okay? Then this one, the monounsaturated fatty acids are just the unsaturated type. How can you help yourself out with this? Because keep in mind, okay, there's that double bond. So for palmitoleic, okay, what 2 numbers would be associated with this on each side? Okay, there's a course, a 2 here, a 2 there. Did you just pull that 57 number out of the air?
Something about cars.
Something about
That's all I got.
something. No, that's exactly what we said. Something about a car. We could maybe look a little later about Stephen King's movie Christine, which is based around a 57 Chevy. So maybe you could say that this is scary in itself. Huh. Horror novel? Scary? This is scary stuff. Okay. Can we leave that 7 for oleic? We can. So that means that one's got to go. And what would we put there? Right. Why? Because we specifically looked at it like this. There's a 7 on that side of the mirror. There's 7 on that side of the mirror. Okay? So you have this, and what a coinkydink. It starts with an O. So it's a mirror image, 7 on each side. Because I wrote that in one of my posts for my class. I said, trying to be creative, trying to make sense of some of these. Then these polyunsaturated fats. Oh, that is a little more difficult because the numbers involved. This one up here is linoleic, linoleic, I think. I don't know why they have to be spelled so closely together, but in this case, we'll just briefly say there's a 2, 2 times 3 equals, and in this case, 2, right, 2 plus, this is wrong. This one's this one. This one goes down here. And then this one was 4 plus 2 equals 6. Okay, and we'll get more into that next week. Okay, we'll also talk about omega numbers, but I want to get into this first. Okay. I told the class this last year. This background that you see, the only thing I can think about is this Disney cartoon. Need a hint? Man, that's incredible. The Incredibles. I think of that every time I see this. Think of The Incredibles. You got such a strange look on your face that.
That was a horrible hint. You gave it away.
I did. Okay, smarty pants. What would have been a better? You're right, but what would have been a better clue?
I actually have never watched it, so that was a perfect clue for me.
Never watched it. It said Jack Jack.
Oh yes,
Or,
Jack Jack.
I would not have got that one.
Just like,
We're solving problems while you two are gone, as you can tell.
don't they like have super long arms? It's the mom.
Yes.
Yeah, you could have pressed that.
Oh,
What are they called?
Mrs. Incredible. I don't.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, Elastigirl.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Elastigirl. Then Dash. Doesn't the daughter's name start with an M?
It was like Violet.
Okay, yeah, Violet. I don't know why M. I was going to say Myra. That's what I was thinking. Okay. Okay. So then, so the ones written in black, 10, 12, 14, 16. Well, this is all of them in general. This is 10, 12, 14, 16, and then these are those bottom 4 that we talked about as well. Okay, so then we just want to go through this, and then I want to show you something on the board to help us get set up for success for next week. So this is something that you would have learned, okay, over a year ago in anatomy and physiology when we talk about saturated, or not saturated, essential and non-essential, not just vitamins, but also fatty acids. So what we had talked about was essential vitamins and non-essential vitamins, but the context is just the same with this. If it's something that the body can make, well then it's non-essential in our diet because it's something that we can make. If it's something that we can't, well then it's an essential type because we have to have it in our diet. Same thing with the vitamins that we take in that you would have learned for some of you a long time ago, others not quite so long ago. So why these get hooked together to form triglycerides, that I really don't have an answer. Because if you are cooking with oil, it's probably any one of those top 4 oils, okay? So then probably one of these 2, probably palmitic. And the reason I say that, for some reason, I think that comes from olives. Because in even just the term olive, why may someone choose fat coming from, or oil coming from olives, do you think? Must be a lot to write for this. Because what will possibly make good matching questions or multiple choice is a line like that and a line like that. You have it down to a 50-50 chance when you're looking at oleic because palmitic is the only other single unsaturated fatty acid. So even though he's not here, does that mean we make fun of Carson then? Well, we're really not making fun of him, but I think he's the one that had brought this up, and that is, make sure my microphone's still working and we're still recording, is that he made reference to vitamin D, okay? So with the brief amount of time that we spent with that, is vitamin D water soluble or fat soluble? It is. And you thought about for just a moment because your water soluble vitamins are which ones? Say that again. Okay, because I thought you said BZ or something, but I knew B, yes. Okay, B and C. So therefore, with vitamin D, I think he had mentioned, doesn't that come from the sun? It was some sort of comment that I can't remember. It was, I'm sure it was him that said it, that something about sunlight and vitamins. I said, no, that's vitamin D. So with that being said, is vitamin D what you think an essential vitamin or a non-essential? So what happens is typically if sunlight comes down and reacts in your skin, it does. But then what happens is your liver can convert certain enzymes because of UV light that shines down from the sun, and the body can make that. So if the body can make it, it is non-essential. But there's a hitch to that, though. It's what we would consider non-essential, but not everyone can make a lot of vitamin D. So therefore, it's something that you would have to take a supplement for. How would we know that? Yeah. How would we know that? Because Doc told me to do that. Every time you do a chart, okay, so what medications are you on? And it says, so I see, says listed you take fish oil and multivitamins. Yep, yep. Okay, well then every year do a blood test, take cholesterol, blood test, triglycerides, sugar test, just to see what's actually happening inside the blood. And vitamin D was low. Excuse me. And she says, I know you're taking multivitamins. And it's good that you do that, but it just does not give you enough vitamin D. It gives you some. You get some from milk, and you might say, well, why are we not making any from the sun? Well, as we get older, things change. Okay? So that's probably a good idea or good explanation, I think. But why would palmitic acid here, okay, be such a great source if we presume, I think this comes from olives, okay? So why choose olives? Well, it does that too. But typically, I think when we hear the term oil, we think not healthy. But of all of the oils, olives is probably the most healthy. So that's why this is probably one of the most abundant that people choose to consume, olive oil. Okay, so that does it for what we want to take notes for. We'll briefly spend a little bit of time on this on Monday, talk about omega numbers, but the last thing I want to mention, okay, so we'll just keep this really, really simple, just because I don't want to take up this whole board, okay? So if we had to write lauric acid, okay, each and every one of these are always going to start the same way. They're always going to end the same way, each and every one of them, okay? So we can safely say for lauric acid, we know we got CH3. What would possibly come next? It's going to be a molecule like that, okay? And then how many of them would we have? So then they all end the same way. So it's up to this point, we would always say, I don't like doing this. So like for instance, hexane, we could say is that CH3, CH2 times 3, and then CH3. 3, 1, 4. I thought they were supposed to be 4. You could write hexane like that. You could. But I choose not to because the compound is small enough. Okay? Do you want to do that with these? You could, but just think CH2, 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 CH2. So I think that was 6 times. See, you got to bob the head up and down too. That kind of helps, you know. Look at See, if someone looks in and say, wow, look at them, they're jamming out, and wow, they're having fun. Okay, so then what we do with these triglycerols, that's the key, because we've seen this just once, okay? We could do this, okay? And then there's one down here. Now, you don't need to draw this, because what happens, our old friend, esterification, comes back, okay? Because when these go through metabolism, they're actually esters. So what we mean by that, what's tough to do is, okay, this is maybe a carpentry term, to where, let's say you're working with a 2x10. Okay, so here's your 2x10. Then as you're carrying it, someone else is on the other side, but we want this side over on here. So it's what we, not just flipping it around, we say, well, let's do end per end. You ever heard that before? No? Maybe. So we've got one side over here, but we want this side over here, so we flip that end per end. That's what that means. Why not just say flip it? See, maybe, because I think maybe that's what we think when we say flip it, but we say end per end, then you're just doing this. Your dad would agree. Your dad would agree. And if those two are here, they would say the same thing too. If you say, what does end per end mean? I guarantee you they're going to say, just like that. Okay? So what we mean by that is, if we're going to show the process of esterification, does it make more sense to have this on the right side or the left? In other words, are we changing the compound when we see, now I got to think about this for just a moment, because it just looks different when we do that. Yeah, we can, no, let's do this. Have we changed just the structure of this, but are these the same thing? COOH. So what we've done is we've taken this and we changed it end per end. Because when you do that, when you show the esterification of these triglycerides, it makes more sense to have this on this side, no matter which other two acids you put down here. To me, this makes more sense. So it takes a little bit of practice to remember, how are we flipping these, changing them end per end. And that's one of the things we'll do next week. Okay, I think that's long enough, so we'll catch up to you next time.